Welcome, viewers, to our Secure AI Agents webinar. Today's topic is about agent autonomy and why that freedom means new security responsibilities for us as developers and IT organizations. I'm Cam, short for Cameron Booth, and I lead developer education here at Xano. That means I spend a lot of my time helping people learn more about our platform, and I'm very fortunate today to be accompanied by Daniel Petro, who leads our developer advocate program at Xano. He helps introduce the latest features to our developer community and guides people on how to get the most value from them, while also championing the community internally by gathering feedback, sharing best practices, and making sure that voices are heard as we shape where Xano goes next. Daniel, just want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Cam. And today, we're really here to make sure that our audience feels more confident about building secure AI-ready backends.
Awesome. Now, before we do get into our core content, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge whether you're a developer, a solutions architect, a product builder, anybody in this space, whether you're an IT leader or otherwise, you're here because you recognize the growing pressure, both internally and across the industry, to bring AI agents into your workflows. And so it's a race right now. And a lot of teams are exploring how to use agents to assist individuals, automate operations, and ultimately reduce cost. Now, that speed can come at a price, and especially when it comes to security and compliance. Here's the thing. Unlike human users, AI agents don't log into dashboards or click buttons, and so we can't really rely on the same safeguards that we've built into our APIs and front ends. But today's session is about how we adapt, not by throwing everything out and starting over necessarily, but by building on what we already know and what you've already built. So if you're using Xano today or looking for a secure and scalable way to adapt your existing systems for AI, or maybe you're just thinking about how to serve tools to agents securely, you'll see how our MCP server and MCP tools fit right into your existing backend structure, allowing you to add AI capabilities without compromising control or rebuilding core functionality. And if you're here looking specifically for a deep dive into how MCP enables these AI agents access, we recommend checking for our previous webinar. That's the MCP for AI agents. That one focuses on the protocol itself, where today we're going to be zooming in on how to apply it securely at scale. So let's go ahead and dive into what makes AI security different and how we're helping teams like yours stay ahead of it. Now, before we do get too deep into implementation, it is important that we're all working from the same foundation, especially as we talk about things like risk, access control, and auditability. Because while security and compliance are often used interchangeably, they're not the same thing. And when it comes to AI agents, that difference matters. So, Daniel, do you mind breaking this down for us?
Absolutely, Cam. It'd be my pleasure. So compliance is about meeting those baseline requirements, usually external ones. These are the rules you have to follow to avoid legal or regulatory consequences. So, for example, not exposing personally identifiable information, and that is PII for short. And that's a compliance requirement. Uh, it's really table stakes. So security, on the other hand, is about going above and beyond. It's the proactive work you do to minimize the risk, even when the government is not explicitly telling you to do so. So honestly, that might mean avoiding unnecessary access to internal IP or putting controls in place to prevent the misuse of data, even if that data is technically protected under compliance law. In the world of AI agents, compliance keeps you legal, but security keeps you safe.
Security keeps you safe. That is right. Thank you, Daniel. And now, if we think about a human agent at the bank, someone acting on your behalf, you don't give them your banking site or app password. They tend to have their own specific system through specific interfaces. On top of that, transactions by the human agent are usually permissions-based and logged so that somebody else has oversight over what that agent's doing. And in software, we use API endpoints with authentication. Roles and compliance layers. So there's multiple things that go into it to address these security and compliance requirements. Now, AI agents don't use graphical user interfaces. And for AI, traditional APIs are hard to discover, understand, and use. And that's why we use MCP tools, custom instructions, and AI protocols served by an MCP server. But the same guardrails must apply. So today we'll show you how. But before we do that, we should probably talk about why this matters. Because when you get this right, you're not just avoiding risk, you're gaining real strategic advantages. So, Daniel, where's the payoff?
Yes, the payoff. So it's when you implement these security protocols and design practices really into your AI agent workflows. You're not just checking a box. You're setting yourself up to reduce risk and lower the long-term costs. So, what this looks like in some industries, these practices aren't optional. They're actually mandatory. And they're mandatory so you can meet that compliance and regulatory requirements. Um, but even beyond compliance, this approach really helps you move faster. You're able to deploy AI agents more confidently, unlock real value sooner, and do it all without having to re-architect your backend. And that's where Xano comes in.
Gotcha. Yeah, having to re-architect your backend would be not fun. So, Daniel, um,
Right.
yeah, can you walk us through why Xano is so well suited for powering AI secure applications?
Definitely. So let me first just back up and like tell some people that are watching who don't know about Xano. So Xano is a visual development platform as a service where you can build and host your backend. And what that backend is, think of it like your logic, your API endpoints, your database, your workflows, and all of that in a simple to use, secure, and scalable solution. The real benefit is that you're not cobbling together different tools with, command line instructions and etc. Let me quickly go into what makes it really powerful for AI. We've added first class support for MCP, Model Context Protocol. So, what that means is instead of building application interfaces for humans, you can serve agents a well defined set of tools, tools that run on your logic stack, our function stack, or connecting systems, existing systems, and data stores while respecting your access rules, your data structures, and compliance rules. So the MCP server is how you present those tools. And with Xano's MCP builder, it's easy to build an interface that works for AI. It just works, Cam.
Well, I'm excited to get into it. And I want to start with the first risk, which is compliance. Unlike a human used app, that enforces what users see, enter, and edit, having, as you had said, a GUI or an interface, LLM based agents can access data too freely if we're not careful. So, Daniel, what can go wrong here?
Yeah. Well, a lot can go wrong, as many people know. But because all of this is so new, some of us might not even know that things might be going wrong. So, real quick, let's talk about like the most common risk, which is PII, and that information leaking into LLM prompts or completions. So, I think everyone can recognize that that's a risk, and agents might pull that contact information that the government assigned identifiers, social security numbers, emails, and even medical data from your system.
Not
So
good.
if you don't control it, yeah, it's it's an issue. So the solution here is really solved in two different ways. First, we can strip our PII before we send it to the agent, and so it never sees it. And so the way that we solve this is really in two ways. Let's talk about the first one. So in the first one, we strip the PII before the agent ever sees it. And we provide some like built-in features for this, such as like the sensitive fields, um, which will do this automatically if it's stored in your database. But you can also do it in the function stack through logic and filters. So let's go over different ways that you can do this. First, you can redact the data, which means completely removing it or blanking it out so it's not visible or usable. The next one is masking the data. So we're obscuring a part of the value while retaining some of the structural context. We can also tokenize the data, which replaces the value with a non-identifiable placeholder or reference. And so what that means is that you could link it back in a secure system, but it means nothing really on its own. And then we can use pseudonyms or aliases to replace sensitive info with realistic or fictional data that kind of mimics the structure and format of real values without revealing personal details. So, Cam, let me show you how some of these look inside Xano and how you can implement it.
Yeah, I'd love to see.
All right, so here we are inside this workspace. I'm on my dashboard page. I'm going to hop into my database. First, I want to show you what those sensitive fields look like inside Xano. So if we go into our user table here, you can see this information. But then if we go and select one of our columns here, we can go ahead and go to our settings. And because this was automatically created for us, we actually configure this for you for your user table. So any password field is automatically comes configured with this sensitive data flag right here. So what this does is it hides the column's value from the request history, and then also inside the function stack. And this is really important for compliance. All right, so next let's hop over. We've built out a function right here in our library, and let's hop into the sanitize function. And I know we're using we're querying records from our DB table right here, but you would normally use this technique for stuff that isn't really in your DB table, because we have that built-in feature that really makes it easy. So we're just doing this right here just to simulate what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and run this function right here, and then we're going to go through each one. So in the first one, we're tokenizing and hashing the data. So you can see this is basically on our ID, and we are encrypting it in a SHA-1, and that's why the user's ID is no longer their actual ID. If we go into our timing here, we can actually see what that ID was before. So we can see the ID was actually just an integer and it was ID 1. So with this technique, we're able to kind of obfuscate or tokenize that ID. In the next one, we can redact, their email. So, and that's what this looks like right here. And we're just doing a simple replace and setting that redacted string instead. All right. So for phone number masking, what we have are these, let me see, right there. We've got our stars and we're just showing the last 4 digits of the number. And then we're also uh, doing that with the last name as well. Like the first name is probably fine to share. It really depends on your use case and what you're trying to do. But this one comes in really handy when you want to just do part of a field. And then lastly, we are doing all of this through our template engine right here, which allows us to basically create this template before sending it over to the AI. And it makes it super easy and handy to use.
So I want to take a couple moments real quick here, Daniel, that we have a couple different methods of being able to perform these different types of masking and obfuscation. Um, the first two examples, we're using the expression or the transform engine. The third example, we're using the visual editor. We're demonstrating that with the looping. And then for that fourth example, we're showing how you can do so with that templating engine. So within Xano, there's just a bunch of different ways to accomplish what we're going for.
Exactly. And that's really the beauty of Xano is that you can do it however you like, whatever makes sense for your process. We really give you freedom to develop the logic that matters most to your business.
Awesome. The fact you could do so in so many different ways just really speaks to just the utility that Xano provides and offers, especially for these agent workflows, making sure that the data is secure.
Definitely. And if you want to actually real quick see what it looks like, because we're querying our user table right here. And if we did pass through and override the password field, let's go ahead and see what that looks like inside the function stack here. Inside our timing details, we can go to our query, and even our password is coming through encrypted if you just so happen to override it. So that is another really cool feature. And then if you happened to do this and then you use it in an API call, it'll actually be hidden from the request.
Awesome. And again, for anybody that's following along that isn't familiar with Xano, we've demonstrated here the ability to query your data from the database inside Xano. Oftentimes, you'll have your data coming in through this endpoint where you'll be able to manipulate it with any of the suggestions we had shown. But what Daniel had just shown was that you can actually, inside Xano, when we're querying our data from our database, customize the output so that we get to decide what data we want and what data we don't want to have shown. Very awesome stuff. Thank you very much, Daniel. And I believe there's also a second way, if that's right, about securing our data.
Yeah, definitely, Cam. So the second protection is that we use Xano as a security gateway. So what that means is the agent can't directly query your database or access critical systems. So it has to actually go through a defined tool in your MCP server where you've implemented the logic and rule checks.
So, in effect, you're building the same kind of middleware logic, I guess, that you would in a human app, but this time for your AI agent.
Exactly, Cam. You build and serve tools like you'd build your API endpoints, but now they're scoped to the agent's task. And you don't have to rebuild existing workflows because we make it super easy and you can use the underlying logic and systems within the new interface MCP tools. And then on top of that, you will have build out logic for role based access control. And that way, you can secure your data and your systems that way.
The next autonomy challenge is one that we're hearing from a lot of builders, and you may have even found this yourself, Daniel, that agents just don't always follow directions. Now, they get creative. I've heard that sometimes that creativity breaks things or opens security holes. Now, that's not good, obviously. Daniel, how do we keep them on track?
Yeah, for sure, Cam. But those are people love using the term hallucinations, but it goes well beyond that. So there are honestly kind of two sides to this. So let's talk about the first, which is observability. You need to see what the agent is doing and why. So inside Xano, every time a tool is called, you can log that request and track how your backend logic responded. And on top of that, it allows you to kind of build an audit trail. So if you need to go deeper into auditability, Xano enables you to easily design a logging solution that fits your requirements. And this is actually my preferred method. I'm pretty opinionated about how I log my information. And I love that I can build out my own custom solution that, fits my requirements. So if something goes wrong, I'm easily able to go back and review the steps and see what the agent was actually doing.
Yeah, Xano
So,
does make it very easy.
yep. And now let's talk about the second one, which is prescriptive logic. So, for example, instead of just saying like summarize this, you build tool instructions that walk the agent through the process step by step. We demoed this actually in our last webinar, and I think it's a great example to kind of give you an understanding of how that works. So be sure to go back and check that out. Um, and then we also support this through the template engine, so which we just showed in the last example, and that can live inside of each tool. So you can feed in dynamic context, structure, and rules, all tailored to the agent's task. Um, on top of that, we can also define prescriptive workflows. So, pre built sequences of logic that you want to run exactly the same way every time. But this is triggered by the agent. So, rather than asking the agent to generate steps, like you let the LLM decide when to trigger that workflow. This gives you consistency in execution while still allowing the agent autonomy in choosing the right moment to act. And honestly, if your workflow has multiple subtasks, you can package them into a single tool or a custom function, controlling the order, scope, and context in which each subtask runs. This keeps your logic reliable while making it easier for the agent to use complex capabilities safely. So here we are back inside our dashboard, and let's navigate. Or before we go over to AI tools, let's quickly see this request history right here. And this is part of the auditability, right? Is that Xano automatically uh, logs your request history, and you can come in here and look at all kinds of information from the inputs to the request headers to the response headers and then outputs. So uh, note that anything over 10 kilobytes is not going to be recorded. Um, and that's another reason, going back to building your own custom logging solution, you can overcome that way. So let's go ahead and, oh, before I forget, you can also see exactly what happened inside the function stack and the timing details, the same way you can do it within the run and debug panel. All right, so let's actually go into our MCP server right here. So now that we're inside our server, you can see I have two tools. One of them is in draft. Both require user authentication and the connections are enabled. So if I go up to the three dots here, we can go to not only version history, but we see request history right here. So now we can actually see when the LLM requested and used this tool. So we can go and see what they actually sent over as inputs, and then we can see the output response as well. So this is just, you know, uh, add new campaign. This is for like an MCP for a marketing team, just so you have that knowledge. So if we hop into this tool right here, um, this one I created directly from an API endpoint. So quickly, let's just go in here. And if I go to marketing, I think it was the copy idea that we were just looking at. And all I did to create that as a tool inside my MCP server was click this button right here, use this tool. So just so you know how easy that is. Now let's go back into our AI tools and see what that looks like when you click that button right there. So you can see that we're making inside the function stack. It brought in and configured all the inputs, the response, and the request to the API endpoint. But like we were saying before, you can get much more. You can really do whatever you want inside these tools. So we talked about, chaining custom functions together. So I could go ahead and add, like my sanitize function, and it doesn't have any inputs configured right now, but yeah, you get the point. You can also directly just build out the logic right here within the function stack. But I highly recommend creating custom functions because that is best practice here.
So it's not just about prompt engineering necessarily here. It's also about system design within the instructions.
Yes, exactly. It's security and compliance design specifically for agents. And when that's not enough, you can require human review before something critical is actually approved.
Now, sometimes an AI agent gets close to full reliability, but not close enough to be trusted with that final call. And this is where human in the loop comes in. Is that right, Daniel? How does Xano support that?
You're right, Cam. And we actually use patterns like task queues or review flags inside the database. So, for example, the agent completes a task, but instead of pushing it live, we just write that result to a pending review table. And then either a human or another internal system, you could have another agent go and review this. So that would mean including other security focused AI agents, and that way they can inspect it before moving forward. And on top of that, you can also trigger notifications, approvals, or reroutes using logic within Xano's easy to build visual function stack. And I just have to say, one of my favorite ones is getting a text message or a WhatsApp message for an approval flow from my AI agent.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome setup. Pretty much just, I mean, it's modern, especially if you're getting a text or an IM or whatever it is, so that you could very easily approve or, I guess, reject whatever the AI agent is sending over. And that's the kind of control where you move from AI experimentation to AI production. Very, very truly awesome. So, the final challenge today is AI agents don't work for themselves. They act on behalf of people or systems, which means that they need a different kind of permission system. So, Daniel, how do you separate the agent from the user that they're representing?
So the way you would actually separate that out, Cam, is by using bi-level authentication. That's two levels of permissions the agent needs to authenticate, and so does the user or task owner it represents. So in Xano, what this means is that you can include both roles in the logic and validate who's calling the tool and who they're working for. And you can also scope access per task using MCP triggers and MCP middleware. These dynamically adjust the context or restrict what the agent can see based on who's involved. And Xano actually takes care of the protocols for you, or it provides you with the triggers and timing with the freedom to build out the security scheme that is right for you, your organization, and the data that you're protecting.
So, just like we don't give human assistants admin keys to everything, we probably shouldn't do that with agents either, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And Xano actually gives you the features and controls to enforce that. So, for example, like our database triggers, we have included MCP triggers to apply security or personalization logic upon the MCP server connection. So when that server is connected to, you can trigger that logic. And we've recently released our middleware function stack to our MCP tools. So exactly like you would use middleware for your API endpoints, you can actually apply protective security logic before and after every MCP tool is called.
Now, that is effective control, and all within a visual development tool is awesome. That is very, very legitimately great. Daniel, would you be able to demonstrate this for us?
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure. All right, so let's hop back into our workspace here. And what we're first going to show is basically how you can see triggers here and middleware. So let's hop into our trigger real quick. And I've created this trigger, which basically allows me to check the user. Um, and basically, whenever they make a connection, if I want to make sure it's the user that I expect. But not only that, but I want to make sure that they actually have permission to specific tools within the server. So, um, in this example, if we don't find like that, this maybe somebody's spoofed and connected, um, then we just actually return an empty tool array. So who cares if they were able to actually end up connecting to our server somehow? We have this additional layer of security that just, okay, good job. You connected to our server and we give them no tools to work with. So I just wanted to point that one out. So and the point here is that you can build it how you want and as sophisticated as you know your industry requires or your organization requires. And then moreover, we have role permissions where certain people are have access to certain roles. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into one of my endpoints here that I've created. And this is just a simple endpoint that's going to allow me to impersonate a user and set a role ID. So let's go ahead and set this role ID.
So real quick, within
Uh,
Xano, within this run and debug environment, you can set additional values within this token that you'll then use within your function stack. That's what we're seeing here.
Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out, Cam. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this server URL. All right, so let's hop over to Cloudflare's AI Playground right here. And you can see I had already connected, but I'm going to go ahead and connect again using this server URL right here. And as you can see, our available tools are add copy idea. So if we go back and look at what permissions our user has, they only have add copy idea as their allowed tool. And that's because they are only a member of the organization and they aren't a admin or something. So if we go to our permissions table, we can see that we have a marketing member and then we have a marketing admin. And the members only have the ability to add a copy idea, but our marketing admin, for example, can add a new campaign. So members can add copy ideas to that campaign. All right. And going back to our AI tools, we can go and check out the middleware this time. So this, I've created this MCP auth pre-middleware, and this is doing something very similar to what we did for our trigger, which happens on the connection. And in this scenario, we're just ensuring that we also have another layer of security before a tool is executed. So, and that's what this is doing right here.
So there's just different layers here that we've been able to demonstrate, or you've been able to demonstrate for us. There's the auth token, the ability to set claims or additional extras within that to verify who the user is, what rules they have. And then also this middleware, this pre-middleware. So before the endpoint's actually executed, this middleware accepts the values, it does what it needs to. And if that user is empty, then we'll go ahead and uh, throw an error. Otherwise, we'll proceed. Is that right?
Exactly. So if we go to our middleware settings right here, we can see not only have we set it up so the response is merged into the context of whatever uh, tool or logic we have, that it's basically happening before it's called. So w- the reason I'm calling this out is because we're specifically using this middleware to find the user. So because we're able to merge the response right here, we can get that user's details. Oh, we already have access to it within the tool. So we could reference that user's name or whatever. Um, and then lastly, we can configure our exception type, and I've set this one to critical. So if we don't find a user within our table, we're actually gonna, you know, stop the logic right there. It will stop the tool from being called.
I love, Daniel, here being able to see within your demonstration everything visually. It's laid out in a way that allows me to follow it pretty easily versus, say, through traditional development with an IDE. We have, that language and the syntax are sort of at our own mercy of our own knowledge to be able to follow along. But here inside Xano, very easily, you're being able to demonstrate things such as this middleware, your logic, and your security for me and anybody else to be able to follow along really easily.
Yeah, definitely. And moreover, it's we take care of the hard parts for you so you can focus on what matters most, which is your business logic and your security. So, actually on that note, let's actually hop back into our get server endpoint. Um, and actually, I have it open right here. And let's go ahead and impersonate the other user. So we're going to select Andrew here, and we're going to say role ID is 2, and that is our admin role. And let's go ahead and run this. And oops, that was the wrong one. And I believe we were supposed to go for role ID 1 here. And okay, now we see the allowed tools. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this URL and go back into our playground here. And now let's connect this one. All right. And there we are. We have the add copy idea in addition to the add new campaign. And this is super important. And that way you can control what tools are available to each role within your organization. And then lastly, let's go ahead and actually disconnect and quickly say, let's say we're a bad actor and we're impersonating here. So we can go ahead and try and connect. And there we go. We failed to connect.
Awesome. And that's the middleware, right? Rejecting this request because we're not able to find this user. This user is not a real user.
Yep.
Awesome. So easy to follow along visually and to be able to see that through the development. So we started our discussion by saying that AI agents require guardrails, just like the ones that we've built into our applications and APIs for human users. And that principle holds true. But since agents don't use these GUIs or GUIs, these visual interfaces, those guardrails, they have to be built directly into the tools and those systems that they interact with. And that's where Xano comes in and what, Daniel, you've been able to demonstrate.
Precisely, Cam. So through secure by design patterns in our MCP server and our MCP tools, Xano helps you manage agent access with confidence. Let's break down how that maps to the 3 key risks. So first, They can expose sensitive information and violate compliance regulations. And that's why we enforce data minimization and role based access at the MCP tool level. This way, agents can only get what they need and nothing more. Second, they don't always follow directions exactly. So every MCP tool is a purpose built, controlled unit of logic. You define what's allowed, and Xano gives you full auditability of every interaction. And third, they require their own permissions. So the MCP server handles agents as distinct actors with independent authentication and authorization. And we've shown you how to build in security proxies for the user permissions.
And we're not just suggesting best practices here. Xano is one of the only first backend development tools to acquire ISO 42001 certification, which is the new global standard for AI safety.
Yep. And what that means is principles like auditability, data minimization, role enforcement, and safe deployment aren't just ideals, they're integrated into how you build for AI.
Yes. So with Xano, it's not just possible to build securely for your AI like our API, database, and deployment infrastructure. It's built in by default. So thanks so much for joining us in this walkthrough on secure AI agents. You can start implementing these patterns right now in your own Xano workspace. Go ahead and start your secure agent deployment today by grabbing that QR code there. You can also register for our orientation calls to ask about how Xano can help you secure your AI project. Or fire off your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as possible with the time that we have left.
I think you're muted,
Sweet. So we're
Cam.
about to start taking some questions. I think I'm unmuted now, right? Saw that notification come up. You should be able to hear me, everybody. Testing, testing. Perfect.
You're good.
Awesome. Sweet. Seems like there might be just like a tiny delay now here introduced, but great. We'll start answering some questions, help out the community about our agents here. Is middleware only on the scale plan for tools? Middleware is going to actually as well be on the launch plan. On the launch plan, you'll have one middleware, whereas on the scale, you'll have unlimited. Good question.
Yeah, really good question.
More questions are on their way, I believe. Do I need to rebuild my whole backend to make it agent ready?
Definitely not. That's the beauty of Xano. You can just get started real quick, like I demonstrated in the demo just a moment ago. We make it really easy with like one click, use this AI tool, and you're pretty much up and running. And then you can build in those security layers as you see fit. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Xano backend that you're connecting to. You can extend any system using Xano. So instead of making that DB request that I showed in the demo, you can actually make an external request or directly connect to Oracle, SAP, wherever your backend lives, or any other data source for that matter.
Great question. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what if the AI agent makes a mistake? Can we undo what it did? Yeah. Great question, Danny. I want to pass this off to you.
Yeah. So, yeah, nobody likes it when mistakes happen, but we can undo some things and move on. I think this is like a great question to call out human in the loop, like I mentioned earlier. I think for mission critical stuff, I really recommend adding in that human in the loop layer. But in some scenarios, you might not do that, or maybe it's not as important. And that's why auditability is essential. So you can go back and really traceability and see what the AI agent did, and then you can go back and reverse it yourself.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Daniel. Will adding all the security make the AI agents really slow? Another good question. No, fortunately not. All the security, it's going to be very fast. As we were able to demonstrate with the obfuscation and all of the different kinds of masking, all that happened very, very quickly. And if you were to add more, not much would change. Dan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I think it's just like important to call out that you, because of the way our infrastructure works and that you have your own resources, you really don't have any kind of added time to complete. Really, like some of these LLM calls, they could take upwards of 20 seconds. So adding in that extra layer of security is, a fraction of a millisecond for the most part on Xano, even on some of the lowest plans.
Yeah, good question. Definitely be considerate of how fast it's going to be. Now, we're a small business. Is this only for big companies with IT teams? This is for everybody, anybody and everybody, truly. The ability to use the MCP and agents. Now, that doesn't just extend to anybody with an IT department. It's fortunately with Xano very easy to set up. So even if you're just a one-man team. But again, Daniel, I want to pass this over to you if you have anything else to add to this.
No, not at all. And honestly, we're a great fit for small businesses as well, because the speed of development on Xano is just so much quicker, and you can get more done with less resources. And that's the real beauty of it. And, one of the reasons we have everyone from, startups, small businesses, all the way up to large organizations.
Awesome. Fantastic. I believe we are at the end of the questions. Thanks so much for tuning in to this webinar. We definitely appreciate the attendance. And if you have any other questions, comments, anything else like that, go ahead and leave them within the comment section. You can also reach out to us within the community and also within your instance, the support tab. We're here to help. So if you have anything else that you'd like to chat about, we'd love to chat. Otherwise, thanks so much and happy building.